Hot topic employees of Reddit, what are your horror stories? I worked for 2 years at my local Hot Topic and the worst stories both involved the fitting room. Our fitting room used to be a self-service room in the back of the store with a red curtain in front of it. An employee noticed 4 feet in the room and opened it to find 2 people having sex in it and had to clean up the remnants. A second incident came when a smell wafted from the same room. It was later discovered that someone had actually taken a dump in the room when they went in to try on clothes. We ended up fitted the room with a galvanized piece of chain and a master lock to keep the curtain open. Luckily, shortly thereafter, we got a full store overhaul that put in actual fitting rooms. God, we had to guard the dressing room like a fortress. I had to prevent a teenage girl and who I thought was her boyfriend from going in there. I also told her she couldn't take the armful of thongs they'd picked out into the dressing room. She goes, "Daddy, will you hold my panties?" and hands them over. And then tells me he's my stepdad but I call him daddy. So then her 40-something methed out mom wanders over to confirm that yes, this teenage juggalo is her husband, that he is a few years older than her daughter, that they go to the same high school, and that she finds their whole dynamic adorable. Every time the girl called him daddy, her mom would cackle and tell me she just loves her daddy. They have classes together at school and she loves telling everyone she goes to school with her daddy. They do everything together. She loves doing stuff with her daddy. Shit almost made me go back to church. Edit, since this is blowing up, if the story sounds familiar, I posted it on an alt several years back and it got picked up by a clickbait site, so cast aside thy pitchforks. Also no, it wasn't Alabama. Not a horror story but a ridiculous short one. I had a woman come in with her sleeping infant and screamed at me to turn off the music while she strolled around the store. I mean, if your baby is sleeping and you want them to continue, maybe don't come to browse the store that you can hear music blasting from the other side of the mall. I'd quat to tell you, haha. A friend of mine did this once. Her baby was maybe a month old and my friend brought her shopping with us, and then proceeded to fuss at the employees of the store for being loud around her sleeping baby. It was so embarrassing. X_X. A petite friend is currently a manager at one and her issue is always a customer that become too often repeat customer obsessed with her or another female employee. Currently it's a guy that swears they would have everything in common because he likes all the things in the store too, as if she curated it, and now has to stay 500 feet from the store. I heard stories like this from my local one several times. They ended up promoting this giant shit-kicker goth chick with purple hair to manager, and she would straight up threaten creepy dudes, had zero problem calling security or police if someone was harassing an employee. I went to community college with a girl who worked there, and she said about 2 weeks after that manager got hired, nobody had been harassed since. How to find the perfect height manager? Pick the scariest, most intimidating person you can find. My current boss was a former store manager at a Hot Topic and he told me that he caught one of his employees stealing a shirt he had stuffed into a Sonic cup. From then on out everyone had to check bags and beverages for merchandise. I work at a UPS warehouse and there's a story that goes around about a guy who smuggled diamonds out by putting it in his water and saying it was crushed ice. So now they make us dump out our drinks before we leave. I heard a story about a manager at Spencer's that got caught in a store check by loss prevention. She was cleared of any wrongdoing, and on her way home for the day, she had a can of Pringles she was taking home, and the LP manager jokingly asked to see inside the can. It stopped being funny when the girl's face went white. She'd shoved a bunch of jewelry into the can, and hidden it under a couple of chips. Needless to say, she got fired, and now checking bottles and thermoses is a thing. Spent almost 5 years working at one in the early 2000s. Being in the Midwest, we had a ton of juggalos but they were actually pretty nice people in general. I had a group of kids ask what I would do if they set some clothes on fire and flicked a lighter multiple times. We mostly got weirdos who wanted to bang in the dressing room or lifted up their shirts to ask me what gauge their nipple ring is. We had this one girl who came in weekly, and I don't think she was all there. She would sit at the listening station for way too long and then leave. One day she sat down and put the headphones on. She had a plastic bag with her filled with empty glass bottles and peaches, yes, the fruit. We noticed it was leaking onto the floor, but just let her do her thing. She put the headphones back and looked at her leaking bag. She had a mildly disappointed look on her face, but immediately looked at her watch and yelled, "I'm going to miss my bus." She ran out of the store and up to a trash can outside the store. She held the bag up high and yelled, "Peaches, meet your fate," threw the bag in the trash, and sprinted off. That job was weird. Worked there for 13 years. So much weird, but that's just retail in general. Caught a guy masturbating into women's shoes in the dressing room. People had sex in there more often than you'd be comfortable with. I worked for them when Columbine happened. We carried a brand of clothing back then called Serial Killer, which featured pop culture pics, references and some edgy saying, like a pic of Bruce Lee that said "revenge" or something like that. The morning after Columbine happened, we got an email to pull all the Serial Killer clothing line off the sales floor, as well as every trench coat in the store. By the end of the day, I'd already had to call security twice due to people showing up at the store and harassing me for supporting those psychos and training the next ones. Then the TV networks showed up and pretty much camped the front of our store, harassing every customer as they walked in, out, asking them why this dark lifestyle attracted them. The mall ended up having security just hang out in front of our store and walking our employees to their cars for a week afterward. Honestly, it was the best job I ever had. The company was really supportive at the corporate level. I still have friends that work there. They pretty much left me alone so long as I made sales, so I had carte blanche to set up my stores the way I wanted, even if it didn't look like the planned merchandising setups they sent out. I had direct access with every department, so if I felt my stores couldn't sell something they sent us, they'd let me transfer it somewhere else, and vice versa, get more bestsellers in. Honestly, if it wasn't for the working every weekend and closing a lot stuff, I would have continued working there. This was my first job in my college town, and generally, I absolutely loved it. You're treated like some super cool mini celebrity by all the little mall rats, the management was generally great to their employees, and the work wasn't too hard in my small, low-volume store. However, there was the issue of Valentine's Day. That year they were promoting all these different corsets and lingerie, as well as the Get in Our Pants campaign for the skinny jeans. Management wanted the employees to try and show the corsets not just as lingerie, but as fashion items, maybe paired with the skinny jeans. Increase sales and all. So there I am, Valentine's Day, in a black corset and tight black skinny jeans and boots. Way more sexy than 18-year-old me with a still developing body was comfortable with. In comes Creepy McCreeper, a 50-plus something dude who says he wants to buy something for his wife, but wants some help picking it out. Not once did his eyes look at my face. The entire time I'm helping him, he's staring at my ass or chest and making weird comments about how I remind him of his daughter, or being uncomfortably comfortable telling me explicit details about his wife's body. He then asks me to try it on and show him, so he could see how it would look on his wife. Luckily, shy 18-year-old me awkwardly laughed it off and got him past the register and out of the store. I loved that job, but Jesus, did it draw some weirdos. Former employee of a couple of years in high school. I loved that job. The biggest horror story that sticks out in my mind was this guy that would always come in with his kids. He was a huge ICP fan, and from the looks of it, he let his kids, both boys, they were I'd guess maybe 7 and 8 at the time, listen as well. They always had Hatchet Man stuff on and pretty bitchin' haircuts. They always misbehaved, just running around the store screaming, sometimes crashing into stuff, And the dad gave no fucks. He was often pretty rude to us in the store about not having specific merch or being out of stuff in his size. He was a large guy. I had and still have no business in what that guy does with his kids. But I always felt a little bad that there was a good chance they would end up in a bad way. Other than that reoccurring instance, for the most part our store was really fun. You have been visited by the Rare Garlic Doggo. Leave a like and subscribe for 69 years of good luck.